So next we'll see about the pathophysiology of bacillary diarrhea. Bacillary dysentery. So what will happen is that it usually occurs due to ingestion of contaminated food or contaminated water, or when oral contact with the contaminated hands. Okay, oral contact with the contaminated hands. So when this is usually when we do all such things, it might lead to damage to the intestinal lining. Okay, damage to the intestinal lining. So when there is damage to the intestinal lining, it usually causes inflammatory immune response. Okay, when there is damage to the intestinal lining, it usually leads to inflammatory immune response. Okay, it usually leads to inflammatory immune response. Okay, when there is inflammatory immune response, that usually damages the tissues. Okay, that usually damages the tissue by the body's immune system. Okay, by the body's immune cells. Okay, by the body's immune cells, and that might lead to like impaired nutrient absorption. Okay, it might lead to impaired nutrient absorption, and also there will be excessive water and electrolyte loss through stools. Okay, electrolyte loss through stools. Okay, that is usually about this pathophysiology of bacillary dysentery. So what is happening is that due to the ingestion of contaminated food, water, or due to due to oral contact with contaminated hands, that lead to intestinal damage, lining damage, that might lead to damage to inflammatory immune response, and that leads to tissue damage by the body immune cells, that might lead to impaired nutrient absorption, or there will be loss of fluid and electrolyte in the stool. So that is usually about this pathophysiology. So next is clinical symptoms. What are the symptoms that we can see in case of this? It is mainly we can see in this bacillary dysentery is that this onset of this dysentery is acute. Okay, onset of dysentery is acute. There will be fever, they will be having vomiting, and also headache will be there, weakness will be there, drowsiness will be there, and if it is not treated, then it might lead to severe dysentery. Okay, if it is not treated, it might lead to severe dysentery, that might lead to complete loss of fluid and electrolyte. Dehydration will be there. In cases in case convulsions can occur, or the baby might go to coma. Okay, the baby might go to coma. So that is usually about this clinical symptoms. See, onset of this dysentery is acute. Fever will be there, headache will be there, dehydrated, vomiting will be there, as well as weakness will be there, drowsiness is there. If it is not treated, then it leads to severe dysentery. So that is usually the clinical symptoms of this bacillary dysentery. So what are the diagnosis? We go history, physical examination, stool examination. Okay, we go with history collection, physical examination, and stool examination. So what are the management that we can go with? Management we can do. So mainly fluid should be replaced by maintaining oral rehydration therapy, same as that of the diarrhea. So oral rehydration therapy should be started. If there is dehydration, severe dehydration, then the baby should be hospitalized and fluids should be replaced immediately. So that is usually then antibiotics should be administered, like ciprofloxacin. Okay, ciprofloxacin can be administered, ampicillin can be administered, or cotrimazole can be administered for 5 to 7 days. Okay, antibiotics should be administered like ciprofloxacin, like ampicillin or cotrimazole can be administered for 5 to 7 days. Okay, it can be done. So diet has to be maintained, like liquid diet has to be given. Okay, liquid diet has to be given, which contains like juice, dal, soup. So all these things should be done, and it should be given at regular intervals. Okay, it should be given at regular intervals. So this is the management of this bacillary dysentery. So what is bacillary dysentery? Bacillary dysentery is nothing but, it is also known as shigellosis because it is caused by Shigella, and this is usually seen under the children below 10 years of age who are not maintaining proper sanitation, and it is incubation period is 1 to 7 days. Mode of transmission, it is through oral fecal route. And then its symptoms you can see: headache, fever, malaise, weakness. Acute dysentery is acute. If it is not treated, it leads to severe dehydration, severe dysentery. So that is usually the answer. Then diagnosis, history, physical examination, stool examination. Management, we can go with ORS similar to that of the diarrhea. Then we can go with administering antibiotics can be administered. So that is usually about this. Liquid diet has to be given. Nutritional management has to be done. So this is about this bacillary dysentery. So next is amoebic dysentery. Okay, so next is amoebic dysentery. Amoebic dysentery, it is usually a protozoal infection. Okay, amoebic dysentery, it is usually a protozoal infection which is caused by Ent amoeba histolica. Okay, amoebic dysentery, it is usually a protozoal infection which is caused by Ent amoeba histolica. Okay, which is caused by Ent amoeba histolica. It is less common in children. Okay, it is less common in children because it is an intestinal infection. Okay, it is an intestinal infection, but may lead to systemic infection. Okay, but it might lead to systemic infection. So amoebic dysentery, it is usually a protozoal infection. It is caused by Ent amoeba histolica. It is less common in children. Okay, it is less common in children. So this is usually found in 15% of the Indian population. It is usually found in 15% of the Indian population. So that is usually about this like amoebic dysentery. So this amoeba usually exists in two forms. One is cyst form or one is tropozytic form. Okay, so this is usually occurs in two forms. One is tropozytic form and the other is tropozyte form and the other is cyst form. Tropozytes usually grows in the human colon. Okay, tropozytes usually grows in the human colon, multiplies and excretes in the form of stool, multiplies and excretes in the form of cyst. Okay, multiplies and excretes in the form of cyst. So tropozytes are usually present in the colon and it usually multiplies and excretes in the form of cyst in the stool. So cyst is the mode of spread of infection. Okay, cyst is the plays an important role in the spread of infection. It can live outside the man for many days. Okay, it can live outside the man for many days. So mode of infection, it is mainly by oral fecal route only. Okay, mode of infection is mainly by oral fecal route. It is vector borne infection. And sexual transmission, the other mode of transmission, it is by sexual transmission, especially seen in homosexuals. Okay, especially seen in homosexuals during oral rectal contact. Okay, during oral rectal contact. So it is usually an incubation period is 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, incubation period is 2 to 4 weeks. So what is amoebic dysentery? Amoebic dysentery, it is a protozoal infection which is caused by Ent amoeba histolica. It is usually caused by Ent amoeba histolica. It is less common in children. And this is usually occurs about 15% of the Indian population. So this amoeba usually present in two forms. One is tropozyte, the other is cyst. Tropozyte is usually present inside the colon. It multiplies and exists in the form of cyst. And this cyst is usually spread of infection where it will be present alive outside the man for like 4 days or for many days. Okay, it can be alive for many days. And the mode of transmission, that is mainly by oral fecal route as well as sexual transmission in homosexuals when they come in contact with oral rectal contact. Incubation period, it is about 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, incubation period is about 2 to 4 weeks. So the condition which favors the spread of infection, it is mainly same as that of this bacillary dysentery: poor sanitation, poor personal hygiene, unsafe drinking water. So that is usually about this, and open night soil system. Okay, open night soil system. So that is usually about this mode or like spread, which usually favorable conditions which usually takes the spread of the infections, like similar to the bacillary dysentery, like open night soil system, unhygienic practices, unhygienic sanitation, poor drinking water supply, less socioeconomic status. So that is usually about this condition which allows the spread of infection. So what are the symptoms? Symptoms, it is mainly asymptomatic. Okay, symptoms, it is mainly asymptomatic, but later on it can be like there will be abdominal pain will be there, cramp will be there, and also they will be having low grade fever. Okay, symptoms are usually asymptomatic, but later on it can be abdominal cramp will be there, pain will be there, low grade fever will be having, vomiting will be there, stool will be mixed with pus and blood. Okay, stool will be mixed with pus and blood, watery diarrhea will be increased, nausea will be there, pain during passing of stool. Okay, they will be having pain during passing of stool, and then few cases they will be having constipation also. In few cases they can have constipation also. So that is usually about this. Symptoms that we can see in case of amoebic dysentery. So what are that? Abdominal pain, asymptomatic, but in few cases abdominal pain will be there, cramp will be there, low grade fever will be there, nausea, vomiting will be there, and also they will be having watery stools, blood will be stool will be mixed with pus and blood, and few cases you can see like intermittent constipation also will be there. So this is about the symptoms of amoebic dysentery. So what are the symptoms, like diagnostic evaluation that we can do? So mainly history collection, physical examination, stool examination, and then stool examination should be continuously done for the checking the presence of tropozytes as well as cyst. So stool examination should be continuously done to check the presence of tropozyte and cyst. ultrasound scan can be done, endoscopy has to be done. Okay, so the diagnostic evaluation that we go, it is mainly history collection, physical examination, stool examination should be continuously done for checking this presence of trophocyte and cyst, ultrasound examination and endoscopy has to be done. So next is management of amoebic dysentery. So management of this amoebic dysentery, the most effective drug for controlling that, it is metronidazole. Okay, the most effective drug that usually controls this amoebic dysentery, it is metronidazole and tinidazole. Okay, so it is the most effective drug that controls this amoebic dysentery, it is metronidazole and tinidazole. So metronidazole should be given dosage of 2 to 50 mg per kg. Okay, so it should be given about 2 to 50 mg per kg of body weight per day. Okay, per kg of body weight per kg, and it should be given in 3 divided doses for 10 to 14 days, and this should be given after meals. Okay, so that is metronidazole, which is given 2 to 50 mg per kg body weight per day, and it should be given in 3 divided doses for 10 to 14 days after the meals. So that is tinidazole, it is given 50 to 60 mg per day per kg per day, and this is also given in 3 divided doses for 3 days. And this is usually given in a combination of diloxinate furoate. Okay, this is usually given with a combination of diloxinate furoate, and this diloxinate should be given about 20 mg per kg per day, and should be given in 3 divided doses for 10 days. Okay, it should be given for 3 divided doses for 10 days, and this is usually given to eliminate infection, that is intestinal infections completely. This is the treatment or management that is given for amoebic dysentery. So it is mainly managed through metronidazole, tinidazole and diloxinate furoate. Metronidazole should be given 2 to 50 mg per kg body weight per day for 10 to 14 days in 3 divided doses. Tinidazole, it is given 50 to 60 mg per kg body weight per day, and this is also given for 3 days in 3 divided doses. Then diloxinate furoate, it should be given about 20 mg per kg per body weight per day for in 3 divided doses for 10 days, and all this thing it is given mainly to eliminate the infection completely. So that is usually management of amoebic dysentery. So now what are the preventive measures that we have to take? So what are the preventive measures that we have to take? Safe disposal of excreta. Okay, safe disposal of excreta. Instead of that, open defecation should be avoided. Okay, open defecation should be avoided. Sanitary latrines should be used. Sanitary latrines should be used so that we can avoid this spread of, because cyst will be present alive. Okay, it will be available for many days outside the man. So therefore, open defecation should be completely avoided. So that is usually then water supply should be good. Okay, safe drinking water should be used for cooking, drinking, everything. So that is usually done. Next, we have to, instead of that, if water supply is that, we can use filters. Okay, we can ask them to use filters so that we can filter or boil the water and drink. Okay, boil the water and drink. So that is usually done. Hygienic practice of food should be done. So food should be covered. We have to wash our hands before cooking and after cooking. We should wash our hands before going to the toilet and after coming from the toilet. And the food, whatever we are cooking, it should be washed properly, and then it should be covered properly. So that is to be done. Then uncooked vegetables should not be raw, it should be washed under running water. Okay, it should be washed under running water. And raw vegetables, that is from the slum areas. Okay, raw vegetables from the slum areas should be treated with potassium permanganate. Okay, it should be treated with potassium permanganate solution before using it. Okay, before using it. So education should be given to the public, at early diagnosis and treatment should be done. Okay, these are usually preventive measures that usually we take in order to prevent dysentery. So it is safe disposal of the excreta. Open night soil should be open defecation should be avoided. Sanitary toilets should be used. Water supply should be pure water supply should be done. If at all, if it is not there, filters can be used or boil the water and have. Then good food practices should be used. Washing the vegetables, raw vegetables completely and cleanly under running water. Whatever the food that has been done, which should be covered properly. Raw vegetables from the slum area should be cleaned with a potassium permanganate solution. Hand washing should be done, that is after going to the toilet, before going to the toilet, before cooking, after cooking, before eating. Before eating food, we have to wash our hands. After eating our food, we have to wash our hands completely. Then early diagnosis and treatment should be done, and public awareness should be done regarding maintaining good environmental sanitation. So by this we can prevent the dysentery. Okay, by this we can prevent the dysentery. So this is about this dysentery. So today in this class we studied about dysentery. Dysentery, it is nothing but episodes of diarrhea along with blood which is present in the loose or watery stool. So there are different types of dysentery: bacillary dysentery and amoebic dysentery. Bacillary dysentery is caused by Shigella. Amoebic dysentery is caused by Entamoeba histolytica. Bacillary dysentery, it is a bacterial infection, and amoebic dysentery, it is usually a protozoal infection.